racing other than the Moto 2 project. Like, Triumph don't really do any racing. They don't make any sports bikes anymore. They've kind of resigned all of those to history, even though the ones they made were really good for a really long time. They kind of just went, oh, well, we don't sell any of those, so we'll stop making them and we'll make street bike versions. Do you think they need to go racing for this product to be a success? Like, if they just produce like a really nice enduro bike, like a CRF 450L, and it's really good, but it's not quite at the competition level that a KTM 450 is at, do you think they still can find success with that? Or do you think it's one of those things where the dirt bike market dictates that the only really way to have success is to produce a bike that can win races and then like tone it down 5% for the customer market?
Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily, it's not essential that they win, but going racing at the top level, I think is still as relevant today as it was during the 1950s. Where you can say, our bike finished the ISDE. I know it's very different now to what it was then. That reliability, isn't or shouldn't be a thing, but I still think that you need a shop window to show off your products. Yes, you can spend a load of money on social media advertising or any kind of advertising, but ultimately, I think, and maybe because, the enduro dirt bike audience have sort of seen manufacturers deliver some products that, that haven't really hit the mark. Maybe we are a little bit more skeptical, and ultimately riding off road, I don't want to say that, certain road bikes can actually be bad, but they'll still kind of do a job. They may not be the best bike, but, the road surface is flat. You're stopping and starting at traffic lights and roundabouts and stuff. You're not. You don't have to deal with rough and unpredictable terrain.
Well, for a lot of people, it's not a performance thing, right? Like you don't buy a cafe racer because it's super fast and handles amazing. You just buy it because you like it. Whereas a dirt bike,
and I think it doesn't matter how much you like a dirt bike. Ultimately, it has to handle well. You want it to know that it's going to last, and like I say, not fall apart after 3 months, 6 months, whatever. So I think they do. They whether they need to go, World Championship, AMA racing at the highest level, I don't know. It's a massive step in, from sort of new guy, new product, to step in. But I do think they do need to do that, because I think as a community, they could, if it's a good little bike, great. You're going to sell a reasonable amount of, I don't know, look at the KDX 220 or something like that, great little bike. The people that loved it, but, and I know there was no classes for that, so maybe it's a bad example, but I do think that if there's no, they won't be starting a project like this just to see how they get on with a dirt bike. I can't imagine they do that. They want to make it a success. They know roughly how many units they need to shift. And ultimately to do that, it needs to be a success, and at some point you do need to fly the flag in that world championship, certainly national championship environment, get the product out there, get it seen. And I think it's also, quite a straightforward way of gaining visibility to the people that are potentially going to buy the bike, because, create the best dirt bike in the world, put it in a road bike dealership. There's a huge issue that BMW never even got to deal with, because, dirt bikers, I think, like to go to their local dirt bike shop, because they want to talk dirt bikes, with people that ride and talk dirt bikes, and are into the same things and can instantly connect, and again, that would be interesting to see if they open up, dedicated off-road stores. I can't imagine they would. Maybe they'll I don't know, but I think that's that in itself is going to be quite interesting to see how they how they handle all that.
Well, I imagine that was probably one of the biggest pluses for BMW buying Husqvarna, is that they were buying an existing dealer network, like all across Europe. You're buying into, like, I don't know, it must have been hundreds and hundreds of shops that sell that dirt bike and have a core audience for that brand already.
Yeah.
To do that. I mean, that's what KTM got on the other end as well, right?
That could have been the idea. You buy Husqvarna, effectively you rebadge them all BMW, and you have this, like I say, this global network of BMW dirt bike dealerships. So maybe that was the plan. But Yeah, I think, to come back to your question, I think they do need to, they do need to get out there, and it's difficult. There's, whether it's European based competition, and obviously the KTM, Husqvarna, Gas, but even Sherco and TM, those guys have a lot of experience in building an enduro specific product.
Mm-hmm. And winning a lot, these are tiny companies that have specialized in winning a lot. They're good, and their bikes are good, and they're well made, and they're not expensive. And I don't really understand how any of them do it, but they do.
So what Triumph are stepping into is massively competitive. I don't really know enough about the sort of street market and their sort of specialist niches to know how much competition there is within that kind of retro scrambler, cafe racer style, whatever. But stepping this way into dirt bikes, you've got the Japanese, you've got the European, there's a lot of competition there, and
a lot of money. Like, it's not cheap to go. I mean, Chu, you've probably got more of an idea of this, but between doing World Enduro Championships, if they did the American Motocross Championship, which is a super important one, I think, if they want to actually sell this bike well, and the World Motocross Championship, and maybe, I don't know, Australian National Championship is probably quite important for that side of the world as well. That's got to be, 200-300 million pounds to go and do that, I would have thought.
I don't know. It's going to be millions of pounds if you want to do it. If you want to do it well, tens of millions definitely.
Well, if you look at like how the Yamaha MXGP team is, they've got a massive warehouse in Holland. It's like it looks like a Formula One shop. It's a beautiful venue, huge semi-truck.
Stepping into motocross and even enduro now, it's not these passionate little amateur but professional outfits, that are tucked away in different parts. It's big. It's there's some serious competition there. And ultimately, there aren't many manufacturers that step in without any growing pains. So they're going to have to step in to whatever they're going to step into, and there's going to be a huge spotlight on them. Even if they only did the British Enduro Championship, it's Triumph. People around the world are going to take note. So of course, from inside the company, they're going to be well aware of that. But you can't. Nowadays you can't sort of get a mediocre product to market and expect it to sell well, because there's so much good competition. People aren't going to just buy it because there's no other option. Lots of people have perfected the art of making really good dirt bikes, and they're jumping into that. So it's it's going to be interesting. But I think the fact that they're coming in is great. Any manufacturer that's new is that's we're a sort of a shrinking pond as off-road industry to an extent. We've got lots of external pressures, environmental pressure, land access issues, and then bigger manufacturers that are involved in other stuff just kind of going, well, we don't care about 5,000 units, we'll make some more air conditioning units or whatever it is, or containers or whatever. So the fact that there's a manufacturer coming in is great. Is it going to be easy for them? Absolutely not. But that in itself, I think, is good, because that it doesn't just hopefully it's not just sort of stimulating and motivating Triumph to do the best they can do. I'm sure it will, any new, competitor, everybody else will have to take notes, and if needs be, up the game slightly, and it's going to be interesting. There's not, like I say, we had that little sort of crazy period when enduro was just booming. We had lots of ex-motocrossers coming into World Championship. We had Aprilia, and we had BMW buying Husqvarna, and since then things have very much, I don't want to say been in decline, but it feels like it has it's a little bit, we've been over the top, over the crest, and then we're somewhere in the valley now beyond that, and things have sort of settled down. We know the players that are involved and their reasons for being involved and all the rest of it. And not many have sort of stepped forward. Obviously now, the kind of the global financial outlook is very different. The political pressures are different. It's a very different world now than what it was when BMW were buying Husqvarna. So the fact that, excuse me, the fact that Triumph don't seem, worried about any of that, it is great, so.
If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe. You can watch or listen to every episode of the Break Magazine podcast on our Patreon page, or listen to previous seasons on your favorite podcast app.